Yeah, so we can continue.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, so we can continue. If my screen is, so we've created this controller, right? And I showed you, I think most people get what we did here. And we were here, we created a new collection in Postman, and we want to add a new request to it. So the way to add a request is to come to the collection you want to add a request to. So a collection is use a collection to group API and API endpoints together. I'm simply going to say add request, and I'm going to say get all loan providers, right? And I don't usually fill out the description. I'm not a big fan of typing. And then I'm going to say save to demo API. You need to close all other requests I have open here. Close this too. Awesome. So I have this request now, right? So this request allows me to test the web API. So I have to run the web API to be able to test. I'm going to come down here. And I'll say .NET run as usual. I need to get the port it's going to run on. Usually takes a bit of time. Okay, it's running now. I'm going to take this link. I prefer testing on the HTTP endpoint. And I'm going to say v/ now. This link I put here, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it to my endpoint here. Remember to remove this extra. I'm going to say send. So look at what I have here. I have a 200 OK response and I have the list of what's it called? The providers, right? And my that. So this is it, basically. This is, so when you hear API, this is it. So then the front end sends a request to this endpoint on your API. So if someone navigates to a page that's supposed to show them the list of providers to select, the endpoint, the web app or the mobile app calls this endpoint on your API, and your API returns some information to them. This information is a list of providers, and then it's the UI or the front end person can then find a way to make it beautiful. Maybe create a card or create a HTML card or something and display this link within it. It's not your job to prettify things or make things beautiful. You're just sending them the raw information, and that's how I prefer to work. So for this situation, for this API currently, what we just did is we have a list of strings and we're just returning this. Okay, let's say, so what if someone should be able to create a new loan provider on our API and they say, oh, it should be able for the administrator to go in and create a new loan provider. Fine. Just add another public action results loan provider. And then I'm going to say, and this is going to be a HTTP post because like I told you, whenever you're sending information to the API or whenever you're creating something new on the API, you use a post request. And this is going to be a HTTP, HTTP post. And then endpoints, so / loan providers / add loan provider. And then we need to give it some more information. Tell it, okay, which format are we going to be accepting this loan provider is in? And the way to do that is to say, I don't remember the header now. I'm just going to take it from one of my other projects. Give me a second. So it's very easy to forget syntax sometimes. That's right. I don't remember the last time I had to build all of this from scratch. There's a way you can automate creating of all of these controllers and all of that. But starting out, it's best that you actually do it all manually and kind of just understand what's going on. Okay, so this is the this thing I was looking for, produce application JSON. So basically this tells whoever is calling our API that, hey, we're going to send you a response in JSON. And notice where I put it. I put it on the top of the class. And that's fine. So now what we want to do here is we want to create a new loan provider, right? And this is where the model part of, we've been saying model, controller, and we've never really talked about the model, but this is where the model comes in. So we need to tell our controller or API in what format the person is going to send us information in. In previous examples, we could just say string number1 and string number2, right? Or in this, for more advanced scenarios like this is not this, and we don't just do this. Instead, we create a model that is going to hold our the information that is coming to us. So for that, maybe some of you have, in some of your tutorials, you've probably encountered things like, or add something to your model folder. We'll come here, and we'll create a folder called models. And in this model folder, I'm going to create another folder. This is what's required, but I like to kind of differentiate. I'm going to create a folder and say request models. I'll create another folder that I'll call response models. Response model. So this is basic, right? Everyone creating a web API project would do all of this. So in my request models folder, I'll copy a new file and I'll call it create loan provider request model. Yes, it's a very long name, but I prefer that I use this long name. So whoever opens my projects and sees something knows, okay, this is what this class is supposed to do. So create loan provider request model, namespace is API.models, because this is the models folder. And then the name of the class, public class, create loan provider, this is one request model, right? Meanwhile, if you have questions as I go on, or you want me to slow down, just let me know. So what are the, so then we say, okay, we ask our front end person, what are the things you're going to send to us when you want to create a new loan provider, right? For now, let's assume it's only the name of the loan provider. In an ideal case scenario, you would send their website, you would send their, what's it called? You send their website, you send their address and all of that. But let's assume that we'll do all of that now. You're not talking, can you mute yourself? So let's assume that from our front end is going to send us the name of the loan provider. So say public string name, and these are properties. So we use get set. And what else? Public string address. So where is this loan provider? Where can I find them? Get set. Then the website. It's necessary to have the website. Public string website. Set, and then public string, let's use a double for this one. So what is the maximum amount of loan they give out? Public double max loan amount, get set. And then public double mean loan amount, and then get set. This is just also just simple C#, right? I mean, anyone can create a file and type this in. And I'm just going to do something and I'll explain why I'm doing it after doing it. I think it's going to be, you said, Booker, you said description. So I'll just continue. I'll add something here and I'll explain why we're adding it when I'm done. JSON property name. JSON property name. Using statement. JSON serialization. I think JSON property name. Okay. So JSON property name. So this is my model class, right? This is I need this for people calling my API. And if you notice, in the same value with the name of the property, just in lowercase. I'm going to explain why in a bit. And then for this one, because JSON uses snake case and C# uses something called Pascal case. Word has a capital. This is called Pascal casing, and it's a C# convention to use Pascal case when you're creating names of things. So that's why I have a loan provider. That's why I have a request model. So this is called Pascal casing. Now the JavaScript world use something called snake casing. I'll show you snake casing. This is snake casing. Max underscore loan underscore amount. Now this is snake casing. They separate each word with a hyphen, sorry, with an underscore. And JSON, because this JSON that we're going to be working with, JSON uses snake casing. So I'm telling my API that, hey, when you receive a property that is max loan amount, actually map it to this property. And that's what I'm doing here. So property for this one, JSON property name max underscore loan underscore amount. Okay, great. We're done with this class. And what I'm just going to do here is I'm going to, instead of taking in string number 1 and string number 2, I'm simply going to accept this class into my controller. This might not look very, just watch, create okay. So return created that action. Return created that action. Name of loan provider. Don't worry about this now. So what I want to do is when someone wants to add a new loan provider, I want to add that loan provider to this collection, to this list. Just add that provider to this list. And then after, when the person tries to get all the loan providers, the new one is added to. What I'm going to do is, instead of creating this in this method, I'm going to create it in the class so that all the methods in this class are able to access it. I'm going to make it static. Okay, I'm going to add an underscore to it to show it's a field. And then I'm just returning it here. And what I can do here is someone wants to add a loan provider. I can say underscore, I need to add the using statement for this. Wait. Now I can say underscore loan providers dot add, and I'm just adding, and so I can take the model coming in dot name. So now I'm only adding the name of this, what's it called? The name of this provider. So how do we test this then? I'm telling you that it's now possible for us to add a loan provider to our project and view all the list of loan providers. But then how do we test that we can actually add a loan provider? Go back to Postman, and I just create a new request. Request, I'm going to call this provider, demo API, and this request is going to be post requests. The first one was a get request because we marked our with HTTP get. The post request. So I come here and I say this is going to be a post request. So there's some data is going to be flying. I'm going to take the URL, the first part of it at least, paste it here, and then I'll take the second part. So this URL maps to this action. Awesome. So how do I actually send things to this API endpoint? I'll come to the body part. I'll tell it, okay, there are different types of information you can send to an API. For example, for the person asking about pictures, I can send an image. So if I say raw, and I come here, let's see, I can say binary, sorry. I can select a file. and send the file to my API. So that file can be a picture, but in this case, we want to send JSON. So I'll say I'm sending raw, and I'm sending JSON. JSON, by the way, means JavaScript object location. I'll select JSON, and then I just fill in the things I want to send. Now think of this as a user typing in something on the mobile app. So what happens on the mobile app or an Angular app or a React app is that the user types in the things they want to send, and then the app converts it to JSON and sends it to the API. Great, let's look at our model. Now our JSON has to be modeled after the model class we created. So the model class we're accepting here. This model, and we see, okay, something that the name property. And then I'm simply going to say name. So let's say, is there any, let's say I started my own loan service. So Vincent's loan service. And then what else is there? We have the name, we have the address, right? Address, Canada in Jesus' name. What else? So my website, website is HTTPS. So I run a blog, I run a technical blog in case you just feel bored and feel like reading something. So I run a blog at philwarner.dev, and then max loan amount. So max underscore loan underscore amount. And the max amount I can give out, unfortunately, now is 10 Naira. And mean loan amount, so I have mean underscore loan underscore amount. And let's say the main amount I can give out is 1 Naira, right? So now what happens is all of these are going to be text boxes, right, in your front end. So in the React app, so sorry, all of these are going to be input fields in your React app. So the front end person works with all of this. So when the person types in all of this, your front end person is actually going to have to convert this to JSON like this and post it to the API. I'm just going to stop this project and run it again. Again, it becomes aware of this endpoint. Okay, let's just finish. Once I finish the testing, Angela, you can ask your question. So I can now come back here and I'll just say send, and let's see what happens. So there's no, I didn't send back any response because I just wanted to illustrate something with this. But if you see our status says 201 created. So this means, okay, this is successful. And what we've sent, if it didn't succeed, we'll send a bad request back here. Now to prove that this works, let's come to get all loan providers and let's send this request again. Okay, I think we need to, something didn't work right. So JSON property name. It actually added this thing, but the name didn't map. This is name. Why aren't you mapping? Angela, you can ask the question, please.
Okay. What I want to ask is, in a situation whereby at the front end, maybe there's an input box for the admin to input the name of the loan provider, how much loan, that's the max loan, mean loan, and all that. Is that the input? Is it the input field that would take in these details now that you're putting in the Postman?
Yes. So we don't have a front end to test this with. That's why we're using Postman. So when the way it work is someone is working on the front end and someone is working on the back end. Now I can't wait for the front end person to finish everything. So I test my work with Postman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, wait. So like in the HTML, right? You know, they are doing their HTML and their CSS, and then they are having their input fields and all that. So how do you now indicate that this input field is to send whatever is entered here by the user to this application?
Okay, before I answer that, help me to understand your project. Okay, do you have a front-end person that's working with Angular or React?
No, they only know HTML and CSS.
So what is your own responsibility on this?
They just told us that we're going to do the backend. That's all they said. So from my understanding, we're probably going to create a database and all that. So the only thing they've done is that they've created a sign-up page for people to sign up and then a login page.
And that
So
sign-up
it's,
is only HTML and CSS.
yes.
Okay, so I don't think your project is going to be an API project then. If you're not going to, what's it called? If they're going to use, if they're not using React or Angular or any of those things, then your project will have to be a web app, so not a web API project. Unless you talk to your front end person, if they can use React or Angular, then you don't need to concern yourself with what their text box is going to be.
Yeah, I think Hypocrite is correct. It's how to consume the API she's referring to.
Okay.
Okay, so for now, right, let's just revert to, instead of using the JSON properties, let's just use the C# names. So instead of using the lowercase, let's just use the addresses. I'll figure out why it's not mapping later. So max loan amount and main loan amount. So this just kind of map one-to-one to your class or this model class you created. And so it becomes a pattern, right? Whenever you want to accept something to your API, a different kind of object or value, you go in here and you create a model class. Okay. So yeah, we have a running again. I'm just going to try to add the loan provider again. So this time I'm going to make this a loan provider and I'll just say send. And we see we have a 201 created again. And then I'm going to try to get all our loan providers now. Where are you? Hold on, let's see. Am I adding it?
I think the wrong photo.
Where are you? Okay, let's debug and see why it's not adding that. Okay, so I'm just going to debug this and see why it's not. Okay, so it's running now. You see, it's opening the browser, but because there's no view, it's. So let's try to add a new loan provider again. Then yeah. Now the values are actually not mapping. Add an annotation here. Okay, so if you're sure that all your teams are not, then what you should be doing is MVC actually. So we see that I now have the values here. So I have address is Canada and Jesus, the name is Richard's Loan Service, and then the website, guys. So I'm just going to step 2. I'm going to add it to my loan providers. Now let's look at the values in my loan providers. I have Cowrywise, I have Rent Money, I have PiggyVest, and then I have Richard's Loan Service. And I'm just going to say continue, right? Now let's come back to Postman and try to get all the list of the loan providers. And now you see I have Richard's Loan Service now. And that's how you work when you're building an API. So an API doesn't have any view. It just has endpoints that either a front-end application or mobile app can interact with. Now, why would you build an API instead of a web app? Because a lot of Okay, so when you're building some organizations usually have a website and a mobile app. So it's easier for you to build.
Emanuela, please, can you switch off your mic?
So it's easier for you to just build a web API and then put your mobile app and your web app can basically talk to the same API. And that's why we build APIs. But now I need you guys to confirm what your project requires. If the people on the front end on your project, if they're using Vue or Angular or React, then we build it.
Sir.
Okay, please just raise your hand if you want to ask a question, or just put a message in the chat box and I'll unmute you. Okay, Maximus, can you go on?
Hello?
Yeah, Maximus, please.
Okay, sir. My own project is space.ng, where it's just a web app, but they say we are going to make use of API location, that's location API.
Okay, so that's not a problem. That means you're still going to be using a web app, but you're going to use maybe Google Maps or something in your work there. I can talk to you about that after this session. But you guys need to find out the people on your front-end team, are they doing only HTML and CSS, or are they using a front-end framework?
HTML, CSS,
okay,
Java, that's all.
Using a web API at all. You guys need to be using a web app because they don't know how to interact with an API. Emmanuel, you can go on. Hello? Okay, Achiever, you can say what you want to say.
Okay, I wanted to ask, from experience in using Node.js, we had to maybe use a lot of packages to capture the data from the body to the phone. Like from wherever you're pulling the data to the body of the page. I don't see C# utilizing any of those packages or doing anything. Everything is just working flawlessly. So is there a point whereby we need to get some packages elsewhere, or it's just going to be straightforward this way?
Yes. So when we when we get to authorization and authentication, although we can roll that ourselves, so although we can do authorization and authentication ourselves, generate a token, but it's advised that you use industry standard services. So at that point, we start to bring in NuGet packages like Identity Server or OpenID Dict. So for that, we can, we're going to use some packages, but basic things like getting a request into your API and all of that, we don't need to. For example, you can see that all I did here was to, all I did here was just to create a model, which models how the information I'm sending is going to look like, which is this. And then I just put it here. So instead of accepting a string or an int, I just put the model here. Do you understand?
Yeah, I
And
do.
that's it. There's no, you don't need anything extra to accept a request.
Okay, last question, sir. Considering that most of the project, the front-end guys are utilizing HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Now, in C# gives us when you were introducing to us the MVC stuff, you told us that C# gives us a platform to write our JavaScript and so on. Now, how do we need to, as working as a team is one thing, but do we need to section ourselves? Maybe since the C# guys are writing the backend API, do we need to worry ourselves about what the front-end guys are using, or we just do what we're supposed to do and hand it over to them? But if we're working together as a team, if we have to put the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how do we incorporate them into the whole project? Like how do they come together to consume the API that we've created?
Okay, so what I'm understanding here is that there's no JavaScript framework being used.
Yeah, it's just vanilla JavaScript.
So if there's no JavaScript framework being used, it's better that we just abandon this API project and just go and build a web app project with the same concepts, right? Because truth is, if they're not using any JavaScript framework, then there's no point you guys writing an API. You guys just write a web app, then you take the HTML and the CSS and put it in the web app.
So, sir, are you implying that there's no way, it's not possible to create a web API that you can just consume using just HTML, CSS, and just vanilla JavaScript?
Well, you can, but I really struggle to see how you would do things like authorization and authentication properly, state management, and all of that. And do you have people on your team with those skills? Do you have people on your team that can actually handle using vanilla JavaScript to interface with an API adequately?
No, not honestly, I can't tell.
Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here that is sure that what they should be doing is an API, not a web app?
I think one person mentioned that.
Let me talk to Emmanuel. Are you here now? Okay, Emmanuel is still not here. Okay, Booker. Yeah, Booker, you can go ahead. Oh, I think I omitted.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So I have two questions actually.
Okay.
The first one is, when you were doing the posts, you had the same problem that Tim Corey, a very popular C# guy on YouTube, had when he was building his own web APIs too, with posts, in that it was sending a null value.
Yeah.
So the both of you actually resolved that by debugging. So I want to ask, when we are doing ours too, do we also have to always debug anytime we're working with posts?
No, you don't have to. So for my situation, the way I actually resolved it wasn't by debugging it. I just used the debug to confirm that it's coming in. And I added this from body attributes, which tells ASP.NET Core where to search for the values from.
Oh.
So it was probably
okay.
for the values from the query string, because I can send in value from query strings. I can send in values from anywhere. So I just told him, okay, search for the values in the body, which is what I'm doing here. So if you notice, there's a body section here and I'm putting the values in the body. Now, in larger projects, if I had time to actually configure this project properly, I would tell C# where, for example, if you see there's no from body here, so when I'm actually setting up a proper project, I would use my startup to tell it, okay, this is where to get, you're always going to get the values from the body, so I don't have to put it in every controller. So no, you don't have to do that. If you remember to put from body in your controller, if you remember to put from body here, you're fine. But you can just debug it to confirm that it's actually coming in. Okay.
The second one is to further buttress what Achiever was trying to ask. In a case where, okay, we're working with web APIs now, and then our front end guys are working with they are doing their own end with the HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. No React, no Angular, no front-end framework. So I don't know if you know about Fetch API in JavaScript. Is it possible to use Fetch API to get responses from our web API, C# web APIs?
Yes, you can. You can. I mean, C# is ignorant of calling it. I mean, I'm calling it from Postman. You can call it wherever you want to call it from. You don't have to send a valid request.
Okay, so in the front end, we can use Fetch APIs to call those endpoints.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Then yes, sorry. Apparently, it looks like you have two VS Code files. The one you are using to show this example, and then the other one where you are doing some kind of configurations that are really confusing.
Yeah. So this is an actual production. This one is an actual production application. This is a large application. It's a ride sharing application that we developed a while back. So you don't have to worry about it. The thing is, I don't remember a lot of syntax sometimes. So probably things I haven't had to do in a long time, and so I can just jump in here and grab one of them. That's why I have this open.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can, Gabriel. What's up?
Yeah, sorry, my mic was faulty. So, like we've been saying, most of the groups were told to not use any framework. So I believe we don't really need an API. We just need probably a web app, like you said, using entity framework and the like.